Here's Dreamer, chapter 22. The next thing he heard was the rush of traffic and the peeping of car horns. He was at the side of the road and the cars were flying by as if in a race. He didn't have a clue where he was or where he was going, but with the dark clouds above him and the lightly falling rain, he decided it was a good idea to hitchhike. It's better to go somewhere than nowhere, he thought, and he stuck out his thumb and hoped for the best. About 100 cars and lorries passed Jack by, and he was beginning to wonder if he would ever get a lift. He was getting soaking wet, and when a bright red Mini pulled up and came to a screeching halt, then a bright red Mini came up and came to a screeching halt. He got in, even though he couldn't see the driver through the dark windows. As soon as he did, he got a big shock. It was being driven by a penguin, and a polite one at that. Things got even more weird when the penguin asked him where he was heading. The penguin could speak, thought Jack. This was definitely a strange dream. Jack said he had no idea, so the penguin, who introduced himself as Pete, put his foot down on the accelerator, and Jack fell back into his comfy seat, and he decided to go with the flow, as he had no choice. They sped around the country lanes as rabbits ran for cover. He's a good driver, thought Jack, but he drives a little too fast. Jack buckled his seatbelt as they bounced along, and it was like being on a fairground round, but much less fun, he thought wisely. Pete was rattling on about how long he'd been a taxi driver and describing all of the interesting and eccentric characters he'd picked up on his travels. He talked quickly with the rat-a-tat of a machine gun. It was difficult to get a word in. He's definitely an interesting fellow, thought Jack, and he was well-spoken and sounded very educated. He must have read a lot of books, thought Jack. He was impressed, especially with him being a penguin. He looked out of the window, and a car was fast approaching them on the other side. It must be going about 150 miles an hour, he thought. It was an open-top sports car, but it looked strange. There was something sticking out of it. As it got nearer, Jack realized that it wasn't something, it was somebody. It's a giraffe, exclaimed Jack in amazement. Oh, yes, we get lots of them, said Pete the penguin nonchalantly. I just hope he doesn't run into any tunnels, he said with a laugh. They sped past, and the giant giraffe took off his bowler hat to bid them goodbye. Soon they were on a busy motorway, and Jack soon realized that none of the vehicles were being driven by ordinary people. They were driven by oversized mice, angry-looking apes, wily foxes, and even an octopus. It was a menagerie of madness. An ambulance sped by in a flash, and Jack peered at the driver. Surely they must be people, he thought, as two hyenas grinned at him and laughed loudly in competition with the blaring siren. What must the patients think, thought Jack. It was definitely worrying. Busy today, said the penguin. It's usually quiet. Many's the time I can drive along and only see a mouse on a motorbike. Or a pony driving a double-decker bus, he added matter-of-factly. Jack was astonished. He'd never heard or seen anything like it in his life, and only wondered what other amazing and intriguing sights he would be witnessing.